Hello, welcome to Gentle Yoga at noon. I'm Jeani, your host for about the next hour. We are focusing on a class where we warm up for the first 5-10 minutes. We usually move to our walking meditation. We've been doing about 3 of those lately, so get prepared for that. And then we move into a cooling down phase of the class. This time, however, when we move into our balance poses, I'm focusing today's class on a balance with our tabletop position. If you want to be on a chair, you can also do this, and it's just to help us balance better if you're not able to meet on all fours on the mat. And then we'll move into some stretches, hopefully with our shoulders, while we're opening up our hips in a more squat-like position for our latter part before we move into our usual last pose of final Shavasana. That's just where we lay down on our back and kind of stretch out to let ourselves respond to the practice. That being said, we'll go ahead and start at the back of the mat as we usually do. If you have a chair nearby for stability in the balance poses as we're making our way down to the floor, that's helpful. Having blocks as well is helpful to help fold forward or make our way down into that squat position if you don't have a chair. So having said that, I'll hopefully remember to take along my blocks as we begin our walking meditation. So just coming to the back of the mat. Go ahead and turn on some music. You don't have to change the quality of your breath. Oh, it's already on. We'll go ahead and just give yourself some time and space to arrive. You just may notice how the body's feeling. How does the mat feel under the feet? How do your legs feel, the back? And as you're slowing down your thoughts, eventually the breath moves along with it. Arms are nice and relaxed at the side of your body. And we'll keep our breath coming in through the nose and out through the nose, unless otherwise noted. We're standing in our home base of mountain. Feet are about hips distance apart. We'll start to cultivate our yogic breath with a little more intention. Let's go ahead and bring our left palm over the heart, our right palm under the belly button. And just breathe in through the nose. Pausing briefly at the top of that inhale before you begin a more focused exhale through the nose. Engaging the core at the bottom of the exhale. And as you pass into the next breath cycle, just notice how the breath, how the energy enters the body as it fills the lungs. As your hand may lift at the top of the inhale, that brief pause before you slowly exhale, feeling the air leaving the lungs, drawing in the belly button towards the spine, engaging the core at the bottom of the exhale to help expel all the air, the energy. Lastly, as our breath cycle begins to lengthen, we can bring in the sound of the ocean, a deep sigh, quiet stadium roar to the back of the throat, and just opening up at the top of the throat on both the inhales and the exhales. All right, we can now bring our hands down to the side and go ahead and redistribute the home base at the soles of the feet if you'd like. And with the next inhale, start to draw energy at the feet, up the legs, up the spine, through to the crown of the head, towards the ceiling. Brief pause before you exhale slowly, feeling that energy reverse direction back down the body, back to the earth. Fully exhaled, engage the core. Inhaling, slowly feel the center of gravity at the feet moving towards the toes, while the soles of the feet remain in contact with the mat. Fully inhaled here at the tip of the toes. Start to exhale, bring the center of gravity towards the heels until you find that tipping point, hopefully at the bottom of the exhale. Use the next couple of breath cycles to explore the center of gravity as it shifts at the soles of the feet from heel to toe, toe to heel. And then we'll meet at center. Imagine the center of gravity above the ankles, at the tops of the ankles, near to the heels. Go ahead and inhale, reset the mountain once more. And as we're energizing imagine a pulling action at the top of the crown of the head there. So all we have to do is exhale, bring our center of gravity towards the right side of the feet. And then inhale, back up to center. Exhale to the other side. 3-part breath. Or just use each inhale and exhale, 2-part breath, to explore the horizontal center of gravity as it shifts from side to side. And notice how it feels in the body as you're doing this. You may notice some achiness or not. And then we'll meet at the center, back in our mountain, and dropping back in. Go ahead and reset at the base if you need. You can lift your feet. You can bend a knee, bend the other. Reset once more, making sure your heels and toes are in that same line position. Alrighty. Then we're going to inhale once more, resetting, lifting, energizing upward through the crown of the head to the ceiling. And as we're upwardly energized, we're going to make small circles, imagine at the ankles, radiating outwards towards the perimeter of the feet. That may take you a couple breath cycles, but once you find the very edge, you can go ahead and start to tighten in the circles. Once again, just observing how it translates, how it feels in the body. And when we return to center, once more above the ankles, closer to the heels, we'll reset the mountain once more. Inhaling, nice and tall. And as we're energized upwards, we once more make small circles, but in the opposite direction. Sometimes it can be tighter on one side or in one direction than the other. And just notice that. See if you can explore this side. Once the perimeter is once again found, we'll tighten in the circles and make our way back to center, like water going down a drain. Alrighty. And then you can completely lift up the foot if you need to, especially if you have a tendency to grip at the mat. And this time, we're going to start to pivot out the toes, the balls of the feet, the toes just slightly. We're shifting our weight from side to side. And the more we shift the weight and start to find that momentum, enabling us to sort of swivel the top torso, maybe a second, maybe two, behind the bottom portion of our body. We're going to lift the toes, making sure not to torque out the knee as we move more of that torso towards that side. And hopefully just the movement of that just gentle ringing of the top torso and the bottom half of your body You may get your arms just moving from that momentum. And I'm not going very fast, but if you find yourself having good mobility, getting a nice stretch, you may find the hands may tap at the sides. For me, I'm a little tighter in my hips and knees today, so I'm not as swivelly, I guess. So we'll go ahead, once that's been just enough movement there to lubricate, just slightly at the waist, some at the hips, the knees, the ankles, shoulders even. We'll go ahead and let that energy peter out, and then return the heel to toe alignment into our mountain, making sure you bring the feet back under the hips. And then we'll go ahead and move on up the body. So at this point, make sure you can feel all points of your soles of the feet touching the floor, making sure you're not rolling out, not rolling in at the arches, not tipping forward at the toes or back on the heels. We really want to have a good stability of the foundation at the soles here. And then see if you can feel that internal rotation slightly. So you may engage more of the ball of the foot right under the big toe. And hopefully that tucks under the tailbone just slightly. And eventually getting the torso to just stack right on top of the pelvic bowl. If you have a deep tilt forward, that's okay. Just work on getting that tailbone tucked under and lifting up, pressing down through the feet, feeling that rooting strength as we move on up to the shoulders. Palms facing forward to help keep the shoulders rolled away from the ears. We're going to inhale, allow the shoulders to lift towards the ceiling, and then exhale, roll them back and let them melt down towards the mid-back, tucking in right there. We'll do a total of 4 breath cycles worth of these inhales up and exhales back and down. Don't forget your yogic breath deeply through the nose to help facilitate this release, this warm up in the shoulder girdle. Feeling like everything from the hips down to the heels are supporting you evenly so that you can feel this release in the shoulders and the upper back. And then we're going to do a second set. This time, after inhaling shoulders up, we'll forward roll on the exhale, still tucking them into the mid-back at the bottom of the exhale, engaging the core as always. Try to move slowly with the breath. And don't forget to hear the ocean, hear that sigh somewhere at the back of the throat. All right. And then we'll move on up to the front of the throat, to the face, to the head. And here, we're going to go ahead and reset the mountain if you need. And sitting up just a little taller, gentle tuck of the chin, feeling that string lifting up on the inhale. So all we have to do is tilt the right ear towards the right shoulder on the exhale. Inhaling, we feel lifting at the sternum perhaps. And then exhale, turn the gaze until you stop naturally. Allow the eyes to float to the rightmost of the vision and palms to hopefully still face forward so that a total of 4 breath cycles on this side will help to release any tightness in the left side of the neck, left side of the face, jawline, temple, and with the eyes as relaxed as possible, just gently floating to the rightmost of your vision. Maybe by the last exhale, you might be looking at the floor, at your right thumb, right shoulder, maybe even the floor behind the shoulder. Keeping both shoulders in line with one another. And after your last exhale, go ahead and bring the eyes, the gaze, and the crown of the head to lift at the top of the inhale. So all you have to do is exhale, left ear towards the left shoulder. Inhale for length. Exhale to turn the gaze. Giving yourself 3 to 4 breath cycles to feel release on the right side of the neck, all the way to the eyes. And keeping the shoulders in line, hips in line, feet in line, making sure that from the shoulders down, you're evenly supporting the weight so that you can focus on releasing through the right side of the neck, right side of the jaw, the temple, maybe even the eyes, again, at the leftmost of your periphery. And after your last exhale, inhale the eyes, the gaze, the crown of the head all the way back up. So all you have to do is exhale, let the eyes float downward, about 6 feet in front of you, to the top of the mat. Find that space between the chin and the chest, and see that gentle diagonal tilt of the crown of the head towards the ceiling. So even on our inhales, we're at a slight tilt, lifting upwards. And on the exhale, feeling rooted down, all the way from the shoulders down, the legs to the feet, into the earth. See if you can help move the energy in the belly. And after your very last breath cycle, go ahead and inhale the eyes back to the midline, past the midline, and somewhat above you. You can stop craning the neck, and we'll use the next 4 breath cycles here. See if you can open up with a small O to a larger O. See if you can gently move the lower jaw. Small steps to maybe bigger steps as you find that mobility. See if you've been clenching your jaw. See if that helps to release it. And softening the brow. And after your last breath cycle there, we're just going to let our eyes float downward, back to the midline. And then shake out any type of holding in the body, of tension, of activation. See if you can lift a foot, lift the other one. Sometimes just lifting the toes and spreading them out and resetting the base right there might help. Alrighty. Now we're going to start with our folds. That introduces our walking meditation. We're going to go ahead and energize those arms downward. Arms are relaxed, but the fingertips, the energy is moving downward. So when we inhale, we can extend the arms, still feeling energizing fingers upwards. And on the exhale, we slowly start to engage the core, move the tailbone back behind the leg position so you can come down with a straight back. And if you need to, you can walk the hands down. And we're coming down to our first fold, which is our ragdoll fold. So move into it slowly. If you've been doing a lot of activity, whether in the garden, out on a trail, just be careful of the lower back. You may need to have your forearms resting on thighs. Maybe if you have those blocks nearby, you can rest the hands on the blocks. But in our first ragdoll of a fold, we're trying to help the lower back release. So as we're flexing at our hips here, the tailbone will be a little farther back from the beginning of the legs. But if your legs are really tight, keep a bend to the knees. Drop that tailbone a little lower. And see if you can eventually just let the torso hang. And if you still have the need for support blocks, that's fine. But see if you can focus on releasing from the tailbone, down the spine, down the neck. Maybe you're holding onto your head. See if you can just release. A gentle no movement, a gentle yes movement. And eventually, if your arms are just dangling out, hopefully you'll feel that support from the hips to the heels. So you can let nature's natural relationship with gravity help you receive some traction in the spine, in the neck. And even in this fold,
Do your best to breathe in as deeply as possible. You may find a side expansion of the rib cage. And then to come out of our first ragdoll, we want to carefully engage the core, stepping into the feet. We're going to do a slow roll up. You can take your blocks, you can take just the hands and start to feel that shift back into the heels and slowly come up one vertebra at a time. You can do a slow roll up, but engaging the core is key. And on the inhale, such that at the top of the inhale, last to stack on the neck, on the spine, is the head. Give yourself a breath or two here. Let the blood rush back to the head. And we'll do that one more time. Inhaling, reaching downward, even with blocks in your hands. Inhale, extend the arms upwards. And exhale, start to hinge at the hips, bringing the tailbone back. Engaged core, straight back. Walk the hands down if you need. Support the back if you need, or just let it come to its natural first fold or second fold position. Give yourself 3 breath cycles here to feel release. Sometimes when you're at that special spot, you can bend one knee, straighten that, bend the other knee, straighten that. You can shift the hips from side to side. You can do these little movements to help you kind of relax a little more into the fold. And we're only here for about 3 breath cycles this time. So on the very last exhale, grab your blocks if you can, if you're using them. We'll go ahead and do a slow roll up once more on the inhale, engaged core, or you have a choice of coming up with a straight back. Either way, we're inhaling, pressing into our feet, firming up the legs, and coming on up. Slow curl or with a straight back. And lifting all the way up. If your hands are at a tangent, that's fine, but see if you can stretch all the way up. Exhaling hands down heart center. We'll start our walking meditation here. With blocks or without, hands in this somewhat prayer position. We'll inhale, standing weight to the left side of the body until you feel that stability of the left leg. Once you find that, then lift the right heel. And you can either walk in place if this is still new to you, or you can lift the foot on the inhale. We're exhaling the foot down. You can go heel first or the midfoot first. Get your ball of foot and then the toes and feel that stability in that leg before you launch from the left, from the back leg, and lift that on the inhale and bring that up. You may not lift very high. Your first step forward may not be very large, but you can work on that. The key is 1 full breath cycle per step, and it might be just you hovering the foot above the mat or taking the knee higher up and having a larger step forward. But see where you are today, pressing into the palms to help stabilize through the core as you're bringing 1 full breath cycle a step closer to the top of the mat. And if you fall out, that's okay. Just come on back. If you have to tap down, that's okay. Just come on back. And at the top of the mat, we'll go ahead and meet mountain, looking at the fingertips. Inhale, press into the palms, watch the fingertips rise. And at the top, we're going to separate the hands and exhale, hinging once more for our 3rd fold now. And you can walk the hands down, you can bring the blocks with you, and hopefully have that in front of you. But here, we're going to fully exhale into hopefully a little deeper of a fold. Fully exhaled here, engage the core. Inhale now, and wherever your hands are having contact, we're going to lengthen through the back, through the legs as is available. You don't have to have, you can still have your micro bend or deeper bend if you need. But we're trying to lengthen through the back and then exhale back to the fold. And then here we're going to place our hands at either side of the feet, maybe at the lowest setting of our blocks. We're going to bend the knees, start to step back. If you can do one step only for each leg to come into your high plank, that's great. That's more traditional. But you can take many steps if you need, and then inhaling, shoulders over the wrists. We're going to come up to a high plank and modify by coming down to our shins. Typically keeping the tops of the feet down to help open up the ankles. But if that is not something you're used to and it feels better to tuck the toes, go ahead and do so. But if you can work towards opening up the ankles in that manner, that's good. So here, we're trying to find the upper body being supported by our shoulders. So the wrists can be at a 90-degree angle. You can walk the hands a little further forward if you have tender wrists. But you do want the fingers splayed, index and middle fingers towards the top of the mat, and thumbs on the inside. See if you can get as much of your palm, not just the heel, but all the way to even the skin between the digits of the knuckles of each finger down on the mat. We want to have the shins supporting our lower body best that we can. And hopefully you have that diagonal shape from the shins all the way to the crown of the head as we're pressing into our arms and our shins. Engaging the core as well. Make sure your belly is nice and firm, belly button sticking to the spine. Then with the inhale, tuck your toes. If they're not already, we'll lift up through the legs, and exhale, shift the hips back to our down dog. And here, we may need to widen the feet. We may need to play with the position of our hands. They should be about shoulder width apart. Feet should be about hips distance apart. And then the distance between the hands and the feet might need to be adjusted. If you have more of a U, that's fine. We're trying to move towards an upside down V with the tailbone being that apex at the top there. And the heels can be lifted, but as you move through your practice, if you find that you have heels down on the floor, maybe a slight pigeon toeing of the toes to help really open up through the thighs. And again, the deeper your V shape is, the more that internal rotation will be necessary to help move the chest closer to the thighs. But don't worry, you can have heels lifted and more of a U shape until you're opening up in the hip area and developing the strength to keep up the body. So in the ears, hopefully somewhere in between the upper arms. We're here for about 5 breath cycles, and I think we are almost there. So give yourself one more deep inhale, maybe roll to the balls of the feet. Exhale slowly, see where your heels land. And we can roll our eyes to the hands. Keep a deep bend to the knees if you need. And we're going to take our blocks with us if we have to, because that's the part I sometimes forget. We're going to walk our hands to the back of the mat to the fold. Fully exhaled here. Inhale, half lift. Once more. Try to lengthen through the legs and the back. Exhale, fold. And then inhale, come on up, your choice. Slow roll up, but either way, core engaged, stepping into the feet. And at the top, we'll lift up, tucking the tailbone under, exhaling hands down heart center, going in for our second walking meditation, which I forgot the blocks. Okay, so get your blocks if you are going to do that, and we'll go ahead and inhale. Standing weight to the left side of the body. When you're ready, lift that right foot, place it forward on the exhale, shift the center of gravity to the front leg, front foot. If you have it there, lift that back foot, engage the glutes on your front leg, and go ahead and bring that other foot down. Exhale the left foot down. And again, it's 1 full breath cycle per step. And see where you are today. Maybe, again, it's just hovering the soles of the feet. Maybe it's a high knee. See what you can do. Focusing on the breath. And at the top of the mat, we'll meet in mountain, looking at our fingertips. Inhale, extend the arms up, separate the palms at the top, exhale, fold. Bringing the tailbone back, nice straight back, or walking the hands down to the fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold once more, relaxing a little deeper. Bring your hands to either side of the feet or to your blocks. Step a foot back. Step many feet back if you need. Come into a high plank, and this time we're going to stay with long legs, a strong high plank this time. So feel as if you're pressing into the balls of the feet, and the heels to the balls of the feet are one line of energy going down, just like the energy from the shoulders all the way down to the wrists to the hands are another line of energy going down. And then the final third from the heels to the crown of the head at that diagonal, and the belly button sticking to the spine, core engaged. We're here for only 3 breath cycles this time. So give yourself another good inhale, another good exhale. And then we'll lift the hips on the inhale and start to exhale, shift the hips back to your down dog once more. Keeping those blocks nearby if you're using those. And here we're also about 3 breath cycles for the next walking meditation poses here as we stop in our down dog. You can bend one knee. See if that helps you to lower the opposite foot heel. Bend the other knee. And again, see if that helps you to stretch out through that heel, through the arches. Oh, but we do want to have the hands in line with each other, as well as about shoulders width apart. When you're done, we'll go ahead and inhale, roll the eyes towards the hands, grab your blocks if you're using them, and start to walk the hands to the back of the mat. Bend the knees if you need. Fully exhaled here. Inhale, inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. And then inhale, come on up, your choice. Slow roll up or a straight back, but either way, inhale, core engaged, stepping into the feet, tucking under the tailbone at the top, reaching up with the hands, exhaling down, heart center. We'll go in for our final walking meditation. Standing weight to the left side. Lift the right foot on the inhale and step it forward. Find that balance on the right side now. Inhaling, stepping that foot forward, engaging in your core, pressing into the palms if you need. Breathing through the nose. And at the top of the mat, we'll go ahead and press into the palms. Inhale, extend them up. At the top, separate them, and exhale, fold. Stick the tailbone back, come on down, float on down, walk on down. And in your fold, fully exhaled here. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. Bring the hands to either side of the feet, bending the knees if you need. Stepping into your, bringing the shoulders over the wrists for your high plank. 3 breath cycles here. Feel as if you've got that wide space of the shoulder blades, those triangular angel's wings, just being separated from the spine, moving away from the spine, and the extension of the arms into the full skin of the palms. Inhale, lift the hips. Exhale, down dog. Do any counter stretching movements that feel good to you for the next 3 breath cycles. You can just stay in your static down dog and breathe. And after the last breath cycle, keep the bend to the knees if you need, and we'll walk the hands on the inhale. On the exhale, walk the hands to the back of the mat, to the fold. Fully exhaled here. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. And then press into the feet, engage the core. Inhale, come up, your choice. Slow roll up or straight back. And reaching up at the top with the hands, tucking under the tailbone. Exhaling, hands down, heart center. And finally resting them to the side. So hopefully you feel a little warmer. It's a good time for some water. And as I mentioned at the beginning of class, we're not really going to go into our standing balance pose, but rather a tabletop version of a balance pose. And if you've taken the class before, sometimes we've done a balance where we're on our knees and hands, and we do alternate limbs. So if you have any spinal stenosis issues, that's probably something that you might want to watch out for. We don't want to extend the lower back in that case. So if you're sitting, you can get the benefit of the spinal, strengthening, the keeping the blocks nearby by just simply sitting at the edge of the chair, there with the sits bones right at the edge, and we can put a block underneath the foot. And then that way you can just, raise the alternate leg and raise the foot onto the block and not have any undue pressure on the back. So moving on down to the floor, if that's comfortable for you. You can use your blocks, you can use the chair if you have one nearby. But if you're sitting in the chair, let me demonstrate for that first so that you can see. You'll just be sitting very much at the edge of that front chair, keeping your feet where it is. And if you feel like that's comfortable, then we'll just be raising alternate limbs and legs just like that. If you would like to keep a block under your foot to get even more of that flexion at the hip, you can do so to challenge yourself. But this is your pose that you'd be in the chair. Alrighty, and coming on down to the mat, you can come down that way if that works. You can turn around and just use your forearms on the seat of the chair. If you have blocks nearby, you could grab those in a forward fold motion. And then as you're coming on down, you just drop the tailbone. Just drop the tailbone and bring the knees down. And then you can hopefully come into a tabletop position. And we're hoping if you're able to open up your shins, your ankles, that you keep the tops of the ankles, the insteps on the mat. If not, again, you can always tuck the toes, but try to give yourself at least a little time in opening that up. Alrighty. So as we're here, we're going to maintain a neutral spine. We're going to be just lifting the knee and the hand first, hovering it above the mat to see where our strength is in this. If you've done this before, then please feel free to just lift and extend all the way. But here, you want to make sure you find that balance, just like in the high plank, of the shoulder over the wrists, and with the knees this time underneath the hips in neutral position of the spine. And we're just going to inhale, start to lighten the left shin, left leg. And if you can do that, then see if you can also lift the right arm. And you're just hovering there, engaging the core, engaging that opposite glute that's stabilizing you. Is like stabilizing the shoulder and the arm of the other side of the body that's being supported. All right, and then we can bring the hand and the knee down. Go ahead and bring even distribution of weight to both limbs. And then we'll move to the other side. Inhaling, lift the right shin. Lift the left hand when you're able to. And just keep it there. Remember, engaging the core. And you can press into the top of the ankle, into the shins to help keep that balance as well. So the stabilizing limbs, you're really going to engage from the top all the way down to the joint. Alrighty, and then we'll bring that right shin, left hand back down. Give yourself a gentle child's pose. And you don't have to go all the way down to the heels, but if you can, that might feel really good. And then we'll walk back up, engaging the glutes, pressing into the tops of the ankles, the shins to help bring the body weight back up to tabletop. And then this time in the second set, make sure your kneecaps are not being, pressured upon. It may feel weird, so you want to feel, again, the support in the shins, not the kneecaps. And we're going to, once more, lift the left leg and right hand, right arm. See if you can extend it to your ability. And again, your supporting limbs, they're really going to have to fire to help maintain that balance. But you don't have to go high. Once more, you could just hover it. You can just bend at the elbow and the knee. If you can find your full extension, good for you. And then we'll bring that hand and shin back down for the second set on the opposite side. Inhaling, lift the the right shin, left hand. See where you can extend that. Engaged core is very key here. And again, doesn't have to be really high up. Could just be hovering. And then we can bring that right foot, right shin, left hand back down. Give yourself another counter stretch with child's pose if you need. Okay, and then we're going to come back up and move into hero's pose. Now, if that's available to you, go ahead and do so. But if not, I'm going to turn around. You might need a block under the hips, between the hips and the heels, maybe just a roll blanket. Maybe this is just about as far as you're going to be. And if you want, you can bring the block to sit down. You can make some space between the knees and just sit on the block. Let your sits bones sit on the edge. You may need to have a bigger edge. But eventually, we just want to sit where we can bring the torso upright. And as we're here, if you have the strap near you, we can see the time here. Good, we've got a little bit of time. So we're just sitting. If you're able to sit and be in this position for about 5 to 10 breath cycles, you might be able to start stretching through the shoulders some, and you can just have the strap nearby. Now, if you're not able to, just work on getting your hips to rest on your heels at some point. You may need to shift with the blocks in between, the thighs and the calves, in between the hips and the heels, wherever it is, focus on the base. But if you're here already, then we can just give ourselves a little bit of time. Engaged core, as always, to keep our torso, help it to balance what's needed over the pelvic bowl. But you might be able to then get yourself into a gentle stretching. I suggest with just the lower back movement first. And then if you can bring this right elbow upwards, you're just moving here, giving yourself just each slow breath cycle. Remember, we're still sitting in our hero for about 5 to 10 breath cycles. So you can help to engage your attention somewhere else as we're moving to the shoulders here. But we're still just releasing and relaxing through the hips, through the tops of the ankles, and maybe even through the shoulders. You might be able to eventually make a connection. But we want to keep the arms close to the body. Right elbow close to the head, left elbow close to the rib cage. And maybe we're just using our strap. Inhaling, each yogic breath may feel a lift at the sternum. And each exhale,
You're feeling the core engaged, and the full exhale occurring. And then we'll move over to the other side. Go ahead and lift up through the heels, through your hero pose. Make an adjustment if you need to. Tuck the toes. Give yourself another child's pose again if you like with tucked toes. Stretch out the arches, stretch out the heels. We'll come back down into our hero pose once more. Hips on top of the heels. And if you can sit upwards for the second set, we'll once again stretch through the shoulders, beginning with the left arm. See if you can get, right arm, excuse me. See if you can get a hold of that strap. Remember, if the torso is, if the foundation isn't happening, work on that first. And then we can hopefully move into a shoulder stretch in the meantime if you're there with the foundation of your hero. And for me, it's a lot tighter on this side. I probably need to stretch more. So one thing to think about, one side can be very tight while the other side is very loose. Or they can be the same, somewhere in between. But with each yogic breath, we're just trying to find more flexibility, more mobility in the cooling down poses in this latter half of class. Okay, we'll go ahead and release. Release the bottom, release the top. And then this time, we're going to walk once more up, but separate the feet. And this time, keeping your knees as close as possible. And once more, if you need to, sit on the block, but make sure now your hip bones are in between your thighs. An internal rotation, in between your heels, the soles of the feet. Internal rotation of the thighs. I'm going to turn around this time, because we're going to do also another shoulder stretch. But this time, we're just going to bring the elbow across our shoulder. So here we can bring the arms out, bend them into cactus arms. Bring one arm, I'm taking my left, and bringing and helping to guide the elbow across my shoulder. We want to keep our torso stationary, and it's just really moving the elbow over. Don't force it in. You can inhale gently, tuck the chin gently, softly. Exhale, see if you can hug in that elbow just a little more. We have a external rotation of that right shoulder. Imagine it moving downward as the elbow gets closer to the chest. See if you can find length in that right side of your neck, the top of the traps there. We can inhale, bring both arms back out, and then exhale, bring the other arm to help guide the elbow in. And it just stops where it naturally stops, hopefully with the exhale. Inhale, length through the tailbone, all the way to the crown of the head. Gentle tuck of the chin. Exhale, gently draw in the elbow a little more if that's available. See if you can find that nice external rotation on the left side this time. And as that shoulder is working its way downward, hopefully getting some length at the top of the trap. And as you breathe inward, definitely widening the protraction of the shoulder away from the spine. Hopefully you'll get just a little more release. And then we can inhale, bring both arms back, and just let the palms float to either side of your hips down on the floor. We're going to go ahead and move out of this position now. You can ball up your hands into a fist and walk your torso up and bring the the heels together. So all we need to do is bring our hips to one side. And we're just going to allow the knees to split open and do what you can. We're going to come into a deer, and your deer may not be as deep, but we want to focus once more on the foundation first. We're going to split the knees, the back foot, and the foot the toes are pointed back away from you. They're not flexed. We want the toes pointed back behind you. And you're going to see about bringing this front leg just a little more parallel to the front of your body. It might be easier if I just turned a bit here. But as we're doing that, we've got our torso in the same plane as our front body here, but we're going to breathe in deeply and then exhale. Start to bring the opposite shoulder into a gentle twist to wherever we can. And then if we have a blanket, maybe a block nearby, and either way, we can finish the deer on this side by simply lowering down on the forearms. Maybe we have the block underneath our rib cage longwise to help support, but just something. Or you can let it hang with the help of gravity, and you may find yourself eventually bringing the entire chest down on the floor. But if you're not there, that's quite okay to just be happy to split the legs and bring that vision to this side. Do what you can, and then breathe here, 5 to 10 breath cycles once you find your sweet spot. What you're hopefully doing is with each breath cycle passing, you're finding the body's protective reflex releasing, so that you may find just a melting of activated muscles, tension, releasing at this top hip, the right hip in my case, maybe in the toes and the ankles. And even as you breathe deeply in this slightly or greatly twisted trunk position, you'll have a nice massage to the viscera, to the organs. And sometimes if the head is too heavy, go ahead and try to support it with the hands, with the block. Do what you can so you can stay for the full 5 to 10 breath cycles, using the last couple of breath cycles in the most relaxed positioning, placement of the body. And after our last breath cycle, exhale. We're going to come at it by removing any props from our head if we were supporting it. We'll bring our palms underneath our shoulders and start to walk the torso back towards the front, to be in the same plane with the front. And you can do a number of things here. If you have that mobility, maybe you can just lift the knees up, get a massage on the glutes, bring the sacrum low, the lower back low, and just drop the knees to the other side. If you don't have a chair or a wall that you'll run into, you can do that, or you can just come up to an easy seated position again and just bring the knees over to the other side. And again, you'll be splitting this position of the knees, so you want to allow this back leg to have more of a pointed foot towards the back, not a flexed foot, but a pointed foot. That should bring more of the ankle down onto the floor. And perhaps on this side, you'll have that shin at that parallel level to your mat, if I were on that side, but with the torso and the torso and the shin being somewhat parallel, and finding yourself here. If you're able, if this feels good to you, then you can breathe deeply, inhaling, and then exhale. Slowly start to twist until you stop. And you've given yourself hopefully about 3 to 5 breath cycles to find your sweet spot. And you can decide if you want to come on down, whether supported at the rib cage by blocks or not, but eventually maybe down to the forearms.
Finding that length in the top hip now, my left hip in this case. Finding that openness there. And eventually, as more of your chest gets to the floor, you can even extend through the rib cage by stretching through the arm. But once you've found your sweet spot, we're really hoping to facilitate the release of the body's tightness in this position on both the inhales and the exhales. Five to 10 breath cycles total. And just notice how the body's responding. You may find parts of the body hanging on to activation, just as that protective reflex is always in play. But as it starts to relax, as you start to hold the position longer, that may start to melt away, and you'll find a release of those activated muscles. And by the end of the last few breaths, hopefully just left with the breath and the release. And to come out, once more, if you have anything supporting your head, go ahead and remove the props for that. And then start to bring the hands underneath the shoulders. Lift up the torso. And then walk the torso back into the same plane as the front foot, the front leg. And then we can start to bring the feet closer together, the knees closer together. And hopefully rolling on our glutes, our lower back, our tailbone, and giving a bend to the elbows. Just give yourself a nice windshield wipe from side to side, gently and slowly. See how that feels. And then we'll meet in Shavasana. Come on down onto the back. If you have your blanket nearby, you can bring that and cover yourself. And I'm going to sit up just to mind the time. But in Shavasana, we're just lengthening through the body, one leg at a time. And if your calf is highly lifted, you may need to lengthen through that leg, extend through the heel as you flex your foot, and then gently release that flexion of the foot. And you can tap the knee, and then just let the leg lengthen. It is what it is and where it will be. And then coming down with the other leg in the same manner. Check and see if your knees are highly tented. As you lay down in your favorite position, your feet might be at corners, more pointed towards the corners. They may just be together, and then just allow them to kind of fall to the wayside there. But you just want to relax. Your arms will be extended, palms facing up, arms off to the side. And then if you want to close your eyes, you can. If you don't want to, just a soft gaze. Here we're allowing the belly to be soft, the brow line to be soft. And when you hear the 3 bells, we'll awaken from Shavasana.
bring the mind back to the body. Take note of sounds outside the room, sounds within the room, and finally back to the breath. As the belly rises with each inhale and falls with each exhale, bringing the body, vessel, and spirit back together again. I invite you to make any movements that help you to reconnect. You can wiggle the fingers, the toes. You can rock from side to side. And we'll be meeting in an upright seated position, either crisscross applesauce. You can move into a fetal position, dropping the knees to one side and then using your forearm and hand to lift the torso back up. You can just come into a easy hero position if you need. I am working on my Padmasana, my easy seated position here. So what we'll be doing is just a gentle cat-cow breath for about 3 breath cycles to help kind of reinvigorate the body. And we'll end class then with sitting nice and tall. So as you sit upright, think about just a neutral spine. And as you inhale, you're going to start to lift through the spine, through the sternum. And then exhale, wherever your hands are, if they're on your knees, on the floor, you're going to slowly start to curl the back. The shoulders come down. Fully exhale, draw the belly button to the spine for cat. Inhale, slowly inflate the spine upwards. Lift at the sternum. Exhale slowly, engaging the core, feeling all that air getting pushed out as you come into your cat. One last time, inhale up. For cow, let the belly be soft. And then exhale for cat. Let the belly carve out. And then we'll come back to a neutral spine here. Bringing hands to heart center. Thank you so much for joining us for Gentle Yoga at noon. I hope you have a wonderful day. Namaste.